The Davos crowd, the World Economic Forum, the global resetters of Klaus Schwab fame, are very much, of course, in the mix in all of this. How would you characterize them, and is their agenda really any different in terms of that end state of sort of comprehensive global governance under, of course, their rule?
When you look at the founder and the leader of this entity, Klaus Schwab, he's been frankly pretty transparent about his view of the way the system should work. He calls it stakeholder capitalism, where instead of having companies that are owned by people serving the interests of shareholders by satisfying the needs and the wants of customers, which is the essence of a free market system, you have to produce what people want better or cheaper or with more diverse options than your competitors. And this results, of course, in a massive production of wealth. So Klaus Schwab has publicly articulated a radical restructuring of that system to what he calls stakeholder capitalism, where all the different stakeholders would have a stake and a say in the operation of that company. And it sounds very sophisticated and very complicated, and I think it's meant to intimidate normal people. But when you actually boil it down to its essence, it is really just fascism. You're talking about, when he lists the stakeholders, the first one he mentions repeatedly is governments. So companies then should serve the interests of governments. And actually, that's exactly what Benito Mussolini outlined when he described fascism as the merger of state and corporate power. Sometimes they call it a public-private partnership. And so the World Economic Forum played an instrumental role in bringing communist China to the state it's at now. Obviously, Marxism, communism, they just destroy massive amounts of wealth. And so the communists in Beijing, working with the communists in Davos, the Marxists, the fascists in Davos, figured out, hey, we've got to change this a little bit. We've got to reintroduce some market mechanisms like pricing, like resource allocation based on certain market forces. But it wasn't because they wanted more productivity or whatever. It was because they wanted to make this totalitarian system more able to, first of all, sustain itself and then able to infect the rest of the world. So you see Klaus Schwab openly cooperating with the mass murdering regime in Beijing. And at first that doesn't make sense to people. You see Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum signing a strategic partnership with the United Nations for the implementation of UN 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, which is basically just global communism, global tyranny, global fascism. And at first that doesn't make sense. You see Klaus Schwab with a bust of Vladimir Lenin in his office. And at first that doesn't make sense. But I think we have to get past the artificial divisions that have been created in our minds between the different types of totalitarians and recognize they are all united on the broader vision, which is the subjection of the individual and the nation to this broader master plan that they have that they think is superior to the decisions we could make as individuals or that we could make as nations. So Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum are an absolutely integral part of the globalist movement, and I'm glad we're having an opportunity to talk about them.